Welcome to Prevention Leaders Podcast with Dave Closson, your source for insights into the world of substance misuse prevention. Each episode, Dave brings you the latest strategies, expert discussions, and real-life success stories designed to empower your work and inspire impactful change. Whether you're a prevention professional, community advocate, or simply passionate about making a difference, this podcast will keep you informed and motivated. Get ready to lead with a confidence that drives lasting results. Let's lead the change together.
Hey everyone, Dave Closson here, and thanks for tuning in. When it comes to preventing substance misuse, understanding what drives behavior is essential. Risk and protective factors play a foundational role in shaping the outcomes we see in individuals and communities. These factors influence not only the likelihood of substance misuse, but also the pathways towards resilience and recovery. For prevention professionals, this knowledge is a game changer. By identifying the challenges posed by risk factors and harnessing the strengths offered by protective factors, we can create strategies that make a meaningful difference. It's about knowing where to focus our efforts, whether it's supporting a struggling family, fostering positive peer networks, or addressing systemic barriers. So let's explore the dynamics of these factors and how we can address them in our communities to foster healthier and more resilient environments. All right, let's break this down in simple terms. When we talk about risk factors and protective factors, we're really talking about what pushes someone towards unhealthy behaviors like substance misuse and what pulls them back toward healthier, more positive paths. Think of risk factors as red flags in a person's life. They're the things that make someone more likely to misuse substances. These can show up in all sorts of ways. Maybe it's a lack of parental supervision at home, struggles with anger or impulse control, or even something broader, like living in a neighborhood where drugs are readily available. It's not just about one thing, though. Risk factors tend to pile up. The more of them someone faces, the greater likelihood they might struggle. For instance, if you've got a teenager who's dealing with academic failure, hanging out with peers who use substances, and coming home to a family that's not very supportive, that's a tough mix to overcome. Even if one risk factor isn't all that powerful on its own, when they stack up, they can create a perfect storm. Here's the tricky part. Some risk factors are out of our control. Things like genetic predisposition to addiction or being exposed to substance use at an early age. But that's why prevention is so important, because there are risk factors we can address. Now let's flip the script and talk about protective factors. These are like safety nets that help keep someone from falling into risky behaviors. They build resilience and provide the tools needed to deal with life's challenges. Protective factors can come from all parts of someone's life. A strong family bond, that is a big one. Positive friendships, absolutely. How about getting involved in sports, music, or volunteering? All of these create a sense of purpose and belonging that can steer someone away from negative choices. And just like risk factors, protective factors can be internal or external. Internal factors are things like self-control or problem-solving skills. Basically, the tools someone has inside themselves to handle tough situations. External factors, those are the supports around them, like a mentor, a safe neighborhood, or access to good schools and after-school programs. The goal is to tip the scales, so to speak, so we can add enough protective factors into someone's life. They can outweigh the risks, even if those risks are still present. Here's the key. Having risk factors doesn't automatically mean someone will misuse substances. Just like having protective factors doesn't make someone immune. It's the balance between the two that makes all the difference. And that's where prevention work comes in. If we can reduce risks and build up protections, we're setting people up for success. Let me tell you a quick story to make this more relatable. Imagine you're trying to plant a tree. If the soil is rocky, there's no sunlight, and the tree is exposed to strong winds, it's going to struggle to grow, right? Well, those conditions are like risk factors. They make it harder for the tree to thrive. But what happens if you give the tree what it needs? You clear the rocks, reduce risk factors, plant it in rich soil and water it regularly, adding those protective factors. Maybe you even put a stake next to it for support, like a mentor or community program. Now that tree has a much better chance of growing strong and tall, even if there's still some challenges like occasional storms or dry spells. People are a lot like that tree. If we focus on clearing out the risks and adding the right support, we're helping them build a solid foundation. And over time, they grow stronger. And even when life throws a storm their way. So what do you think? Does this make sense? The real magic is in finding the balance, reducing the rocks while building up the soil and the support. That's how we help individuals and communities thrive. Let's talk about how risk and protective factors, they work together. Think of them like a seesaw. On one side, you've got risk factors, the things that make someone more likely to misuse substances. And on the other side, you've got protective factors, the things that keep someone grounded and resilient. The goal isn't just to remove all the risk factors because that's not always possible. Or pile on protective factors. It's about finding the right balance. Just because someone has risk factors doesn't mean they're destined to misuse substances. And having protective factors doesn't guarantee never struggle. It's the combination of the two that really shapes the outcomes. Because if that seesaw tips too heavily toward risk, the chances of substance misuse go up. But if we can add more weight to the protective side through strong relationships, supportive environments, or teaching life skills, it can help balance things out, even if some risks are still there. A lot of people think, oh, this person has so many risk factors, there's no hope. They've got a good family, so they'll be fine. It's not that simple. Risk factors and protective factors, they don't cancel each other out in a neat one-to-one way. It's more like a tug of war. Even if someone has a lot of protective factors, a really strong risk like early exposure to substance use can still pull them toward misuse. And vice versa. Someone with a lot of risks can thrive if they have just the right supports in place. This is why prevention work is so important. It's not about eliminating every risk because we can't. It's about tipping the balance in favor of the protective factors so people have the tools they need to navigate challenges. And here's the beauty of prevention. It's not just about saying, let's stop bad things from happening. It's also about creating opportunities for good things to take root. For example, a school program that teaches kids how to handle stress isn't just addressing a risk factor. It's also building a protective factor. The best prevention strategies work on both sides of the equation. They don't just remove the rocks, they also add the nutrients to the soil. A quick analogy. Think of it like riding a bike uphill. Risk factors are the things weighing you down like a flat tire, a heavy backpack, or a strong headwind. Protective factors are the things that help you keep moving, like a well-oiled chain, a light load, and maybe a push from a friend. If you can reduce the weight of the backpack, lower the risks, and get a good push to increase protections, suddenly that uphill climb doesn't feel so impossible anymore. So when we talk about the interplay between risk and protective factors, it's all about the balance. How do we help people lighten the load while giving them the tools to support the climb? That's where the real power of prevention lies. Let's take a moment to think about how critical timing is when it comes to prevention. Imagine you're trying to steer a river. If you make adjustments upstream, even small ones, you can change the entire flow before it reaches a dangerous point. But if you wait until the river is raging and flooding downstream, it's a lot harder to control. That's the essence of early intervention and prevention. Starting when the groundwork is still being laid, so we can shape better outcomes from the very beginning. Childhood and adolescence are crucial windows for prevention efforts. During these formative years, kids are developing their sense of identity, learning how to handle emotions, and figuring out how to interact with the world around them. The habits and skills they develop during this time often set the tone for their adult lives. It's not just about stopping substance misuse before it starts. It's about giving young people the tools to thrive in the face of challenges. Life throws curveballs at all of us. But the earlier someone learns how to manage stress, resist peer pressure, and make thoughtful decisions, the better equipped they'll be to handle those moments without turning to risky behaviors. Let's be real. Risk factors like peer pressure, exposure to substances, and emotional stress are often unavoidable, especially in today's fast-paced world. But the beauty of early intervention is that it builds protective factors right alongside those risks. It teaches kids that while they can't always control their circumstances, they can control their responses. So what does early intervention actually look like in action? Thankfully, there are programs specifically designed to help kids and families during these pivotal years. Here are two examples of approaches that have proven to make a difference. 1. School-based life skills and decision-making programs. Schools are a natural setting for early intervention because they reach so many kids at once. Programs like these teach skills that go beyond academics. Things like emotional regulation, problem solving, and how to handle peer pressure. For example, instead of just telling kids to say no to drugs, these programs walk them through realistic scenarios and equip them with tools to make better choices. They learn not just why saying no is important, but how to do it confidently. Imagine a 12-year-old who's feeling pressure from friends to try vaping. If they've practiced handling that situation in a supportive setting, they're more likely to respond with confidence rather than giving in. That's the power of teaching life skills early. It creates muscle memory for making healthy decisions. 2. Parents and caregivers are another key piece of the puzzle. Kids need structure, support, and open communication at home to thrive. Programs for parents focus on practical strategies like setting clear expectations, using positive reinforcement, and staying actively involved in their children's lives. Think about the difference between a parent who just says, "Don't do drugs," and one who sits down and has an honest conversation about why staying drug-free matters and follows up by being present at their kids' soccer games or checking in on their friends. That kind of proactive involvement builds trust and creates a safety net for kids to fall back on when life gets tough. One of the most important things to remember is that prevention doesn't wait for a problem to appear. It's about stepping in before behaviors or circumstances have a chance to escalate. Kids are incredibly adaptable, and the earlier we can introduce positive influences, the more impact we can have. It's a bit like teaching someone to swim in calm water rather than waiting until they're caught in a storm. Research has consistently shown that prevention efforts beginning in childhood or early adolescence are far more effective than those introduced later. For example, school programs that start teaching life skills in elementary school see longer lasting impacts compared to those introduced in high school. Similarly, the parenting programs that begin when kids are toddlers help parents build strong, connected relationships from the start, reducing the likelihood of risky behaviors down the road. Here's another way to think about it. Early intervention doesn't just help the individual. It creates a ripple effect through the community. A kid who learns how to regulate their emotions or say no to peer pressure grows into an adult who's better equipped to lead a healthy, productive life. That adult might become a mentor, a parent, or a community leader, passing on those same skills to others. Over time, the impact of one early intervention multiplies. Let me share another quick story. Imagine two kids, Sam and Alex, growing up in the same neighborhood. Both face similar challenges: peer pressure, stress, and easy access to substances. But Sam is enrolled in a school program that teaches emotional regulation and decision-making, and Sam's parents attend a workshop on effective communication. Meanwhile, Alex doesn't have those supports. Fast forward a few years. Sam has learned how to handle stressful situations with tools like deep breathing and problem solving. When offered drugs at a party, Sam feels confident enough to decline without fear of losing friends. Alex, on the other hand, doesn't have those skills and struggles to navigate the same situation. This isn't to say Alex is destined for failure or that Sam will never face challenges, but it shows how early intervention can tip the scales. It gives kids like Sam a stronger foundation to build on, even when life gets tough. So when you talk about prevention, starting early isn't just a good idea, it is essential. By reaching kids and families during those critical formative years, we're not just preventing problems, we're planting seeds for long-term success. And as those seeds grow, they have the power to change entire communities for the better. Now let's talk about what recent research has been telling us about substance misuse prevention. Think of this as getting a map to navigate the complex terrain of risk and protective factors. The more we understand the patterns and influences, the better equipped we are to make meaningful changes in our communities. Now, over the past few years, studies have shed light on some critical areas: family and peer relationships, the role of community support, and how socioeconomic conditions shape outcomes. Each of these findings offers valuable clues for designing prevention strategies that actually work. Family and friends are some of the most significant influences in a person's life, especially during adolescence. Research consistently shows that family bonds and peer relationships can act as either risk or protective factors, depending upon the dynamics. For an example, a study published in BMC Public Health found that teens with substance-using peers or absent parental supervision are at much higher risk of engaging in substance misuse themselves. This isn't surprising. If the people closest to you normalize certain behaviors, you're more likely to follow suit. But here's the good news. Strong family connections and positive peer influences can completely shift the narrative. When parents foster open communication and provide consistent support, kids are better equipped to resist negative influence. Similarly, friendships with peers who model healthy behaviors can reinforce positive choices. Let's zoom out a bit and talk about the bigger picture. Communities with strong social cohesion, where neighbors look out for each other and positive relationships thrive, you see significantly lower rates of substance misuse. The availability of safe recreational spaces also plays a huge role. Think about it. A community with parks, sports leagues, and after-school programs provides young people with constructive ways to spend their time and build social networks. These resources act as protective factors by giving kids a sense of belonging and purpose. One study even highlighted how community-based mentorship programs, where adults invest time and energy into guiding youth, can dramatically reduce the likelihood of substance misuse. It's a simple but powerful reminder that connection is key. And when people feel supported and valued, they're less likely to seek validation through risky behaviors. Now let's talk about a harder truth. Socioeconomic status has a huge impact on risk and protective factors. Research has found that adolescents from lower income families face increased risk due to things like limited access to education, healthcare, and safe neighborhoods. Economic stress can also exacerbate family conflict, which often serves as a risk factor for substance misuse. This isn't just about money. It's about the barriers that come from economic inequality. For example, kids in lower income areas may have fewer opportunities for extracurricular activities, mentorship, or academic support. These gaps make it harder to build protective factors, leaving them more exposed to risk. But here's the hopeful side. Systemic changes can make a difference. Policy efforts to improve access to quality education, affordable healthcare, and safe recreational spaces can help level the playing field. Prevention isn't just about individual behaviors. It's also about addressing the systems that shape those behaviors. So what does this all mean for prevention? It means we need to take a tailored, multi-layered approach. One size fits all solutions won't cut it, because every family, community, and individual is dealing with a unique combination of challenges and strengths. For instance, if a community struggles with economic disparity, prevention efforts should focus on improving access to resources like after-school programs or healthcare. If peer influence is a major issue, mentorship programs or peer-led initiatives might be the answer. The key is to meet people where they are, addressing both the immediate and the systemic factors at play. Another takeaway is the importance of community engagement. Building resilience doesn't just happen through top-down strategies. It happens when communities come together to create supportive networks and opportunities for positive growth. Prevention is most effective when it's not just a program, but a collective movement. Here's a story to bring these things to life. Imagine two neighborhoods side by side. In one, kids have access to a community center, a mentorship program, and safe parks to play in. In the other, resources are scarce, and kids spend more time unsupervised. The research tells us what you'd probably guess. The first neighborhood sees fewer issues with substance misuse, while the second struggles more. But let's say a local leader in the second neighborhood decides to start a community garden where families can work together. Over time, that garden becomes more than just a place to grow food. It's a hub for connection, mentorship, and collaboration. Let's talk about what it means to take a holistic approach to prevention. Think of it like taking care of a garden. You wouldn't just pull out the weeds, address risk factors, and call it a day, right? You'd also plant healthy seeds, water the soil, and make sure the garden gets plenty of sunlight. Build those protective factors. A holistic approach to prevention works the same way. It's about addressing the risks while actively nurturing the strengths that help individuals and communities thrive. A holistic approach to prevention works the same way. It's about addressing risks while actively nurturing the strengths that help individuals and communities thrive. Here's the thing. Focusing on just one side of the equation isn't enough. If you only work to reduce risk factors, like cracking down on drug availability or addressing poverty, but don't boost protective factors, you're leaving gaps. And those gaps are where the struggles can creep back in. On the flip side, only building protective factors without addressing risk is like planting flowers in soil full of rocks. Sure, you're adding good things, but the environment isn't set up for those positives to flourish. A holistic approach ensures we're tackling both sides. And it's the balance of both that creates lasting change. Now, here's the beauty of holistic prevention. It's a team effort. Communities play a huge role in creating the kind of environments where people can thrive. So what does that look like in action? One, it looks like collaborative programs. When schools, parents, nonprofits, local businesses work together, amazing things happen. Imagine a community where the school runs life skills classes, the local gym offers free memberships for teens, and the mentoring program connects kids with positive role models. Each piece strengthens the whole system, making it harder for risks to take root. Prevention doesn't have to feel like fixing a problem. It can also be about celebrating and amplifying what's already going well. Communities with strong cultural traditions, supportive networks, or engaged leaders can build on those strengths to create even more positive momentum. When communities take this kind of integrated approach, the effects go beyond just reducing substance misuse. You start seeing other benefits, like kids feel safer and more supported, families grow stronger, neighborhoods become places where people want to live, work, and grow. It's like tossing a pebble into a pond. The ripples spread far beyond where the pebble lands. So now it's your turn. What strategies have you used to assess risk and protective factors in your community? Share your experiences on social media using #PreventionLeadersPodcast or drop me an email. Let's learn from each other and grow together. Now, as we wrap up, remember this. Understanding risk and protective factors is key to effective prevention. By identifying both the challenges and the strengths in our communities, we can create strategies that truly make a difference. Now, on the next episode, we'll be talking about building strong coalitions for long-term prevention success. So don't miss it. And until next time, keep leading with purpose and passion. And don't forget, prevention is better together.
Thank you for listening to the Prevention Leaders Podcast with Dave Closson. Since prevention is better together, make sure you click the subscribe button and share this and other episodes with a friend. If you have a topic idea or guest suggestion, follow us on social media or email us at info@preventionleaders.com.